A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lyft comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lyft. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lyft have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lyft. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lyft was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Good day and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program of living independently for today and tomorrow, or LIFT, L-I-F-T-T as we like to call ourselves. LIFT is what is known as a Center for Independent Living, meaning that we are a nonprofit center source of resources and advocacy for people with disabilities and the aging across an 18-county service area in southeastern and south central Montana. The services and programs we provide are all geared towards promoting and enabling the independence of people with disabilities and the aging. My name is, for more information about LIFT, you can visit us online at lift.org or give us a call in Billings at 406-259-5181 or in Glendive at 406-948-8500. My name is Jed Barton, and I am a public relations specialist at LIFT, and sitting alongside me today is Carlos Ramalho, our executive director. Today's program is a conversation about disability, history, and culture. And our guest is Lauren Hunley, who is the community historian with the Western Hertiage Center here in Billings. And Lauren, welcome. First, could you tell us a little bit about what the Western Hertiage Center is?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you guys for inviting me today. The Western Hertiage Center is an interpretive center in downtown Billings. We share the stories of the entire Yellowstone River Valley. So that's much bigger than just Billings or just the county. We focus on history, culture, art. Our goal is to share stories, inspire our community, and we do that through changing exhibitions, through community programming, and through community partnerships.
That's great. And
so, Lauren, can I ask you a very difficult question?
Sure.
Does life imitate art or the other way around?
I think the answer to that question is more complicated than the time we have today because it depends on the theme. It depends on what we're talking about. There are many, many things that draw inspiration from art. There are many, many artists who draw inspiration from reality. And so, when we're talking about the Western Hertiage Center, we draw our inspiration from our research. We dig into the stories of the people and the places that make the foundation of where we live. And we want to be respectful and inclusive in the stories that we tell. One of our institutional values is the fact that we respect and honor all people and their stories and how those stories relate to our communities and our neighborhoods. And so we have some big plans coming up. We're really excited about them. But for the Western Hertiage Center, we are open to the public March through December for exhibitions and for programming. But we as a staff are out in the community 12 months a year. We're always out and about, seeing what's going on and sharing those stories.
Mm-hmm. We would like to hear more about this exhibition that you guys are planning and involve our community, the aging and disabled population that we serve.
So for the last 2 years, the Western Hertiage Center has been working to collect oral histories, to collect stories from people living with disabilities. When we think about disability, what a lot of people don't know is the fact that concepts of disability underpin, they form a foundation for nearly every aspect of American history. But those stories are oftentimes overlooked when we think about history books and we think about sharing that information. When those stories are included, they are frequently controlled by caregivers. For us, in wanting to be respectful and allow people the control to share their own story, to be able to say, this is how I want to be remembered, it was very important for us when starting to explore concepts of disability history to talk to people who had disabilities, to talk to people who had their own experiences to share. With support from Humanities Montana, we were able to collect 14, to interview 14 different people. Those interviews, in addition with months of original research, are now forming the foundation for a brand new exhibit that is very unique. There is nothing like it in the Northern Rocky Mountain region. The exhibition is called Equally Different: Uncovering the History of Disability in Montana. And we are looking at how do concepts of disability, how do people who have lived with disabilities, how have they contributed to our community? How has the community impacted them? There are some incredible stories that are going to be in this exhibit. There's also some stories that are really hard to hear. There's some really difficult information in that. But in the midst of that, there are some incredible and amazing pockets of disability support, of treatment innovation, of things that are happening within our community here in Billings and Yellowstone County and in Montana. Things are happening here decades before they're happening anywhere else in the country. In many, many ways, Montana is spearheading and setting itself up as a leader historically for these themes of advocacy and mainstream education and treatment, and how do we incorporate people living with disabilities into our communities in an accessible and accepting way. There are things happening in Montana that aren't happening anywhere else in the country.
Well, we met 6 months ago to talk about the research and the plans for the exhibit, and we couldn't foretell the future. Mm-hmm. And I confess I am taken aback by how whatever the center is planning and doing and the message of the exhibit will give it to the nation and to the world, and how it fits into the present context that is bringing to the spotlight whether the disabled people can give a positive contribution to society. How do you and the rest of your team feel about this present moment?
We follow the news, and there are many, many things that are happening today that as historians we see mirrored from decisions that were made historically. Our hope, our goal is that if we're able to share how some of these things happened in the past, and we can see parallels, we can see similarities to things that are happening today, if a person is able to come through the exhibition or to participate in some of the programs that we're hoping to host, it will help inform them so that they can be better citizens moving forward. If we understand how things were before, if we understand the decisions that were made before and what those consequences were, we can use that to help inform the decisions that we make today. I myself am very surprised at how relevant some of the exhibit themes are going to be. We actually had a conversation among the staff about, okay, how specific do we get about some of these things? Because it's very important for us to help people understand where we came from. Yeah. And by understanding where we came from, we can better decide on where we want to go.
I think it's an incredible opportunity for the Western Hertiage Center and LIVE to partner to provide answers to our communities, where lies the truth. Do people with disability, do they have the capacity, the ability, are they capable of giving a positive contribution to society at large through work, education, recreation, through the arts? Are they relevant? Should they be restricted in any way? You may not be aware, but we are in the middle of this debate, in the middle of this fight for survival. There is a lawsuit that was filed back in September 2024 by 17 states, one of them the state of Montana, through our Attorney General, seeking to declare Section 504 of the Rehab Act of 1973 unconstitutional.
Really?
And the Rehab Act of 1973 is the very legal foundation of organizations like LIFT. And it's the piece of legislation responsible for special educations in our schools, for work opportunities for disabled individuals, for training, for inclusion of people dealing with any type of disability. So we find ourselves to be very lucky to be working with the Western Hertiage Center and giving this message. It is, as a matter of fact, our plan to partner with you as much as possible, to hold workshops and write papers and try to engage the media in proactive ways to send the message to Montana, to the nation, that we disabled people, given the accommodation we need, we will be able to contribute to society, to history. We want to make a difference. It is important to say that I am completely deaf and almost blind, and nevertheless I can still work and be productive. It is true that sometimes I need a little more time to complete different tasks, but who doesn't? Every human being has good and bad days, and I am just another one of them.
Well, and I will say that within the exhibit, we do have a section on legislation and on advocacy. And that section covers national advocacy efforts, but also the growth of statewide advocacy efforts. And it actually talks about the San Francisco sit-in that was responsible for getting Section 504 enforceable. You know, right. the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 passed in 1973, but it had no enforcement behind it. There was no way to make anybody follow it. And I believe it was 1977, a group of people with a variety of disabilities staged a extensive sit-in at the federal building in San Francisco, and it sparked advocacy across the country, which eventually led to the signing of Section 504. And so here we have this circling back around. But even within Montana, in 1931, the Montana legislature was looking at passing a law outlawing people who are deaf or hard of hearing from qualifying for a driver's license. You can't hear, you can't drive a car. And the Montana Association for the Deaf successfully lobbied and killed the bill. And so from the very early days, people with disabilities have been able to unify and gather together and share their experiences. Our exhibit is taking an overview approach. You know, we have some specifics. We talk about some of the context nationally, but our goal is to narrow it down so that we can see how these things affected our community, both in the past and today. We're going to be talking about education, special education, mainstreaming, educational and therapy centers. We're going to be talking about treatment. How were people medically treated? How did that change? How there was actually an incredible orthopedic hospital school in the 1930s here in Billings that created a national standard on how those facilities should be run and managed. We're also going to be talking about eugenics and institutionalization. We're going to be talking about employment. We're going to be talking about concepts of disability for Indigenous communities. We're looking at all of these things from a big picture and then narrowing it down to, here are the snippets of how this affects our community. Here is how it was then. Here is how we can see it today. And then we're extending our exhibit as well to a separate space where we're looking at the cultural, the artistic component. We are working with several artists with disabilities to display their work. That particular exhibit is called Empowered Hearts, Hearts, with the art. And really showing that these many people are incredibly talented and gifted, and that expressing themselves through art is just as powerful for them as it is for us. That exhibit's going to obviously include work by Cliff Potts. He's probably the most well-known Montana artist with a disability. But we also have some others. We've got some young up-and-coming artists. We're actually partnering with you guys. Lyft is loaning us one of your balloon sculptures that was done by Justin Johnson, I believe. We're really excited to get that piece. And I love the opportunity to kind of pull all of these components together. People living with disabilities have been here from the beginning of Montana. You have been here before Montana was Montana. People living with disabilities have impacted their communities all the way through. And people living with disabilities are still here and still very much involved in our spaces and who we are and our identity as Montanans. I'm incredibly excited for this exhibit. It will open, both of these exhibits, they will open March 26th. Will be our first day. Give us a moment. Like we got to make sure that everything is set, because I really think that the impact of this exhibit is going to be amazing. Montana State Special Olympics are going to be in Billings in May. Your clients throughout the state traveling through can come see. Yeah. We know that there's a conference for one of the state disability associations that are going to be in the region. We're working with them to try to get them in as well. We've already connected with Intermountain Health, St. Vincent Regional Healthcare Center. They're already making arrangements to send staff to come over and see the exhibit. So the discussions that we're having are not possible without community partnerships, without sitting next to each other and having these conversations. And our hope is that people are able to come in to learn a little bit of something, but then to leave with questions and to leave wanting to have conversations, so that, again, understanding where we've come from allows us to make better decisions to decide where we want to go.
We are really impressed by the complex logistics behind the exhibit. Mm-hmm. So our audience may not be aware of how complex, legally speaking, strategically speaking, from the point of view of insurance and gathering the right people together to make such a complex project become a reality. And I want to thank you in the name of the disabled community of the state of Montana, of South Central and Eastern Montana, for the work that you are doing, for giving us a voice, a positive image, and advocating for us in many ways. And I would like to put Lyft at your disposal.
Thank you.
The viewers, I would like to invite them for the activities that we are planning in association with the Western Hertiage Center. We will be conducting workshops and talking about the different aspects of the exhibit. And we are also planning a creative writing seminar maybe 1 or 2 days, where people will be able to come and learn how to put the written word at the disposal of leaving a legacy behind, sharing your story, rearranging your narrative, and making it echo the message of the 504 Rehab Act of 1973. It's a never-ending journey. And the exhibit will show us that there is much more to be done, right?
I think so. I hope so.
Would you like to highlight something that surprised you during this process that you will always carry with you?
For me, as we wrap up here, I think one of the most impactful pieces during the 1920s and 1930s, the study of eugenics was very much the predominating social science theory of Montana. If you're not aware, eugenics was a pseudoscience that tried to say that these are the good genes that we want Americans to have, and therefore we need to take active breeding decisions to eliminate bad genes. We have Jeanette Rankin supported it. Lee McMullen with Eastern Montana College supported it. It was in all of our high school textbooks. And yet, as that's happening all around us, here in Montana, we have Dr. Lewis Allard and the Sisters of Charity with St. Vincent Hospital they open a clinic specifically to provide treatment to children with physical disabilities. And their entire emphasis is not just we're going to treat you, it's we're also going to educate you, and we're going to build your confidence, and we're going to help get you back into the community. They operated that school with teachers with support from the Billings School District. A local drugstore donated all of their school supplies. Local businesses provided job training. And so we have this pocket of dignity that's happening in the midst of some really horrible policies. Yeah. And that pocket creates a precedent for this community for the next 30 years. It impacts and establishes programs that continue all the way into the 70s and 80s.
Thank you, Lauren. I guess the message of today's show is that if you happen to have a disability, physical, chronic, mental, whatever it is, there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with us. We are just part of the diversity of humanity. And I want to close the show by saying, Lauren, thank you.
Thank you.
The Western Hertiage Center, thank you. Would you please remind the audience when the exhibit will open, please,
Yes.
before Judd closes the show?
Equally different, uncovering the history of disability in Montana, and Empowered Hearts, art from artists with disabilities. Both shows will open March 26th. And at that point, we will be open to the public Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5.
Thank you.
Thank
Judd.
you. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Carlos, and thanks to our viewers for tuning in to Living Well in Montana. For more information about LIFT and our programs and services, please visit our website at www.liftt.org. Thank you and good day.